All right, so under the Add Change menu, what would we probably need to click on a certain option here to start and add a new listing. Now again, we can do that two ways. We can click Add or Copy. If I copy, it's going to ask me what listing number do I want to copy. This is where I might want to take advantage of that quick launch bar and look up that listing number for that property. We're doing, I have a property right here that I'm going to run. It's 1934. Bryn Mawr. I didn't have to type it all in there. I didn't have to type in the Northeast and the city. What I typed was enough for the system to identify it. And now I need to know what listing number. Well, I have 3 to pick from. How do I know which one I want to copy? Well, that's when I can use that open in a new window and kind of look at each of these properties and go, oh, wait, that's my old listing. But what I'm trying to point out here is the listing number I type does have to be assigned to you previously, or this will happen. So I put the listing number in, and I said copy photos and hit next. And I get an oops message. Sorry, you may only copy photos of your own listing. So make sure you're clear on that. You can't just go and copy any old listing in the MLS. It does have to have been assigned to you at that same office previously. So you probably want to go under, instead of copy, maybe, is add. And add is really starting a new listing from scratch. And I'm going to start off that process for you a little bit and go through, and we're going to use this address right now for Bryn Mawr. I can't pronounce it, but you can see the address here is the one I'm going to enter. Entering a new listing in the MLS, regardless of property type, is going to have 6 folder tabs at the top. So if you think of it as a 1 through 6 process, I will need to work my way across each one, entering the required information, and then I can click Add Listing and it'll go in. Or I can hit Save Incomplete. Since I'm not putting a new listing completely in right now, I'm going to get about halfway through or so and hit Save Incomplete. So let's talk about the first tab, General. There's really not much going on here other than going in and picking our property type. And it already has me assigned as a listing member, but I can, if I want, assign a co-listing member right now. Doing that is going to give them the ability later on when it's active to go and edit and add photos and make changes to it like I can. And also include them in the marketing of the property and for production when it sells. But as far as what I need to put in right now, I'm done with this tab. I can either jump by clicking to the next tab here, or at the bottom right, you can see Next. So for right now, I'm going to click the word Next. And it's taken us to the Address tab, the second screen of entering a new listing. And this is the first time we're really seeing these kind of pink highlighted sections. It's telling us that these are required sections as opposed to, let's say, unit number that's not required. We'll see that a little bit more detail under main fields. But for right now, understand we do need to put in the property address. I have it up here. It's 1934. BYRN MAWR. And it should be Drive. So Drive is actually going to go in under the street suffix. If I type Drive here and leave Drive as a suffix, you could probably guess right now what the address will be when I make it active. It'll say Bryn Mawr Drive, and then Northeast. So I've seen a lot of variations. I've seen this before. Bryn Mawr Northeast twice. So if you ever wonder why a listing has, Drive or Avenue or Northeast, it's because someone put the street post direction in the street name. So it really just wants the name period. and then I'll put drive and northeast. So I'm breaking down the address into little pieces of blocks. I've also seen this misused before, putting northeast as the pre-direction. So this one will say northeast Bryn Mawr Drive northeast. That's really for like more rural addresses. Different parts of the country will have a directional in the front, but not typically in Albuquerque or Rio Rancho. There's no unit number. This is a house. City town code. So the city I have is limited, dependent upon the county I choose. So default, it gives me Bernalillo, making it very easy to pick Albuquerque. But this property could easily have been, let's say, in Los Lunas. In that case, I do have to pick Valencia and choose Los Lunas in order to get that city to show up. But we are in Albuquerque. The zip code is 87106. You can see I keep doing that, wonder why I keep clicking up there. I have that address still typed in the quick launch bar, and I just keep going up to it real quickly to reference that address. As long as I leave that text in this quick launch bar, it'll just keep that up there for me to keep clicking on. So all I've done right now is enter the address into each of its little blocks, and now it's wanting the UPC code in order for me to continue on. I could look that up, maybe going under this CRS tax program under the tax menu, but here's the trick. Since I've entered the full complete address, all I have to do now is populate tax data. So I just want to make you aware that when I click this, and I hope it works, when it does work, it will provide me the UPC code, and it will also auto-populate some additional tax and school information on my listing fields. So understand right now, before I clicked it, that these other 4 sections, I have not gone to those yet. But when I successfully populate the tax data, like I'm doing right now, it actually entered in some fields for me we'll review in a moment. If I had not done that, I will have to enter those tax values in manually later on. It looked like something happened though when I populated the tax data. It dropped my post direction for some reason. But I did get that zip +4. So I'm going to put my post direction back, and I'll click next. Now, modifying the address in Flex, you can never just click next that easy. What I'm being asked to do right now is verify the map location. They kind of go hand in hand. Even if I come back, 6 months into this listing being active, and I change the address, it's going to make me re-verify the map location. I'm going to assume this is correct, and I'm just going to click use this location. If not, let's say if it was that house, I'll just move the pin over. Anytime in Flex that you're adjusting the mapping on your listing, it's going to ask you to confirm the address verification. You can keep your address or use the geocoder. It looks like the geocoder wants to drop off northeast. No, thank you. So I'm going to use keep your address. And I for years I usually just use keep your address. Okay, so if you remember what a moment ago, I clicked next, and it doesn't look like it did anything. What actually happened was it brought up that mapping window, made me re-verify it. So technically I do have to click next twice, and now I can jump over. So the main fields and details are where you will spend probably the most of your time entering in data. And in order for me to successfully add this listing, let's say today, with all data in a price and status of active and go online for marketing, I do need to enter all of the required information. And so it's a matter of going in field by field, typing in, let's say we want to list this for 165. The on-market date, You'll have a calendar here if you want. And sometimes there is a question mark that will bring up a definition of that field. So you can see when I click that for on-market date, it actually brought up the definition between listing and on-market date. So make it more clear for you. So let's say my on-market date is actually going to be the 19th of October. But the listing date is, let's say today, because that's what the contract says. But we agreed with the seller that they wanted to begin marketing on the 19th. What's going to happen though is if I were to activate this listing today on the 12th of October, it won't be visible to other agents in the MLS until the 19th when it's truly on market. And that's when the days on market will start counting from, the on market date. Next, property expiration date, 6 months from now, or whatever the date is on the agreement. A lot of these are, I say, self-explanatory on what you're doing on here. Is the property bank owned? Is it a short sale? What's your compensation? Is there a variable rate? Directions? But remember earlier I had used that auto-populate function, which I encourage everyone to use when it's available. It gave me some other information now on the data fields that I don't have to type. It provided me with the area and zone atlas. I have my lot acres and lot square foot already completed. I have my schools, year built, legal description, approximate taxes, and the owner name, which I don't have to put in there if I don't want to. But that's just a nice point of using that populate function. Again, it's from address, populate tax data, and it populates some of those tax fields and schools for us when that data is available. And that's just less for me to type right now and look up. But I go through and enter my data, and then I hit next after that, or just jump to details and enter that information. Under rooms, 3 rooms in a standard living in a dwelling are required in the MLS here, and that's MLA, kitchen, and MBR. It wants to know the length, width, and what level or location level the property, the room is at. That isn't to say you don't have to put in the other bedroom dimensions, or maybe for dining room. We encourage you to put in as much data as you can, even if it's not required, just to make it a more comprehensible, rich listing for buyers and the other agents to view. And then export, the very last tab, there's not a lot going on here, but there are some choices that the seller can make, probably have already been addressed in the listing agreement, on whether they want to allow the listing to be excluded from the internet, if they want the listing viewable on Zillow and Trulia. So just leaving it like this, top 4 unchecked, the bottom one checked for Zillow, is basically saying the seller is okay with the way the MLS is going to market the property. I don't need to make any special exclusions to hide the address or to opt it out of comments on AVMs. But again, these top 4 are really identified pretty clearly in the listing agreement for the state forms that talk about there, which means if the seller says on that form, excluded from the internet, then I want to make sure that I'm doing that now. Checking this box, you can see what it did. So checking all the top 4 and not the bottom one is really going to keep this listing in-house. It's not going to allow a listing to be sent out online. So potential buyers are not going to find this on Realtor.com or Zillow or Trulia. But if they're working with buyer's agents in our MLS, they will see that property through the internal auto search. But you will not find it on the public website. And again, the seller needs to make that choice in writing on the agreement. So no matter how much data you've entered, whether it's just one field or just as barely as I've started right now, I have a long way to go to complete entry of this listing, I can save it as incomplete. And that's done in the upper right corner, save incomplete. And that's it. And I'll go back to the Flex homepage and show you under the Add Change my incomplete. And you can see I have it right there. 1934 Bryn Mawr, Northeast Drive. You can see something happened funny with my address. If I want to edit that, I can go to listing information. But at this point, this is really all I can do to an incomplete listing. I can edit the data, add photos and documents.